let me ask you a question. How many of you think that Congress acts on principles all the time right now? Never. That's the problem. And you know, it's so sad to think that in this building that represents freedom to the rest of the world, right now the people of this country have an approval rating of about 14%. And I think it's actually a testimony to the graciousness of the American public, because we probably only deserve about an 8 or 10% approval rating. That's a sad state of affairs, and I think it comes about because there has been too much power concentrated in a few people in Congress. Committee chairs, leadership, they get to direct and control too much of what goes on. And let me give you an example. We were in the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. We had this bill in there. It wasn't a great bill, but we went through what's called markup, where you actually amend the bill in committee. And the amendments went on and made it a little bit better bill. We sent the thing out. It goes to the House floor. Next thing we know, the bill's on the House floor, and my legislative director comes up and says, "This is a different bill." Or it's a different version of the bill, I should say. And here's what happened. The bill got a dual assignment. 2 committees. We acted on the bill and amended it. The other committee just sent it out. The Speaker gets to take those 2 versions of the bill and say, "I want this one." That's too much power, folks. That is wrong, and it leads to many of the problems that are occurring in Congress. So what are we doing about that? During the last election cycle, I talked about a thing called single subject legislation. So each bill is about one thing. You know, that's what you deal with. Right now we have, particularly appropriations bills, we have, you know, the Christmas tree effect. Everybody gets to put their own on. Well, when we got to Congress, we looked at single subject legislation and said, you know, that's probably more of a giant step than we're going to be able to pull off. But we backed off just a little bit and said, you can introduce a bill that's got more than one subject, but any member can ask for what's called division of the question. So instead of saying, shall the whole bill pass, the question will be divided into, for example, with Iraq funding, we had the funding for Iraq, we had minimum wage, we had spending on, you know, secure rural schools, Craig Wyden money, a bunch of other things, spinach. You know. Division of the question would say, I want a separate vote on Iraq funding. I want a separate vote on the minimum wage. I want a separate vote on the spending provision. We introduced that bill with 27 co-sponsors. It's been very powerful. When I've talked to people about this, they all kind of intuitively get the fact that this needs to happen. Would be a good move for Congress. Second bill that we introduced this right before I went on break, and I didn't have time to get as many co-sponsors on it as I wanted. We have 7. But it deals with the format of the bills. For any of you who've dealt with the Idaho legislature, we use like a red line version of the bills. You got the text of the code section that you're dealing with. If you take something out, you strike through. If you add something, you're underlining it. Most word processors have that. And the reason they have it is because it tells you a lot. Well, the bills in Congress read something like this. Go to Title 42, Section 999. Go to the end of the second paragraph, and it literally says that. Go to the end of the second paragraph, take out the period, and insert this language, and then go to the end of the 4th paragraph and delete the rest of the section. Well, if you don't have that in front of you, you can't tell what you're doing. So this bill that I introduced it doesn't require printing and all that expense. All it says is, give me a red line version on a website so that if I want to look at it, I can download it, I can print it out, I can read through it, I can see how we're making changes. I think that's not only important to members, I think it's important to you. Because the American public ought to be able to tell what it is we're doing and have that kind of transparency added.